If you ever suspect your PC's overheating, here are a couple tools that can be super helpful. First, you're gonna need some kind of monitoring tool. The two I usually recommend to people is either HW Monitor or HW Info. They're both completely free applications that read out all the sensor data for your entire computer, including component by component temperatures for both your CPU as well as your GPU. And the best part about a tool like this is that you could fire this up in the background while you happen to be running a game, and it will keep a continuous log of the temperatures while you're gaming, telling you things like your average temperature as well as the maximum temperature that your CPU reached. But if you want to go a step further and put your CPU under a worst case scenario, download AIDA64. And I typically like to run mine side by side with HW Info. And then inside of AIDA64, go to this little icon here, which is the system stability test. And if you just click start right here, it's going to put your CPU under a full load torture test, instantly maxing it out at 100% CPU usage. This is designed to be a worst case scenario test, because in reality, your CPU is almost never at 100% usage. But if it can sustain a load like this, it can sustain a game. I typically recommend running this stability test for about 5 to 10 minutes, because that's when temperatures start to equalize, and we can go over to HW Info and look at our maximum temperature reached and see that it's just at 70 degrees Celsius, which for a full load stress test is not bad. Realistically, under a full load stress test on any modern CPU, I wouldn't be panicking on anything over 90 degrees Celsius. 95 degrees Celsius if you have an AM5 CPU, because around that temperature point, we start to see thermal throttling, which is where if we scroll up, you'll see things like your CPU clock speeds start to slow down, because thermal throttling is just when your CPU starts to request less voltage from your motherboard to get its temperatures in check. It's basically a safety measure, but for tasks like gaming, we don't want that. And a little heads up, if you do see excessive temperatures, you may want to consider repasting your CPU, or if you have an AIO, make sure your pump is still running. But let's say you don't want to test your CPU, or you know the temperatures are already in check. Well, let me show you a tool to check temperatures on your GPU. My favorite is called FurMark2, which is an all-out graphical torture test that puts your GPU on its limits, maxing out its power delivery and requesting everything it's got. But most importantly for us, it logs all the data in a nice little chart, giving us a clean readout of the GPU temperature as well as the hotspot. On most modern cards, those hotspots can get well over 100 degrees, but the actual die temperature is only a concern when that gets over about 85, because that's when GPU thermal throttling starts to take place, which acts in a very similar way to your CPU. But if you run FurMark2 for about 5 to 10 minutes and your GPU temperatures are nowhere close, I would not be concerned with any kind of overheating.